As Father Zosima's body was laid to rest in the large room, news of his death spread like wildfire, attracting more and more mourners hoping for a miracle. Yet, instead of a miracle, the mourners got a nauseating shock as Zosima's corpse decayed at a rapid pace. The stench of decay filled the room and made all present gag and retch in revulsion. The startling speed of the body's corruption seemed to suggest that even in death, Zosima's spiritual flaws had caught up with him, leaving many to question if he was ever truly close to sainthood. The skeptical monks and those who were hostile towards Father Zosima acted swiftly. They declared that the decomposition of the elder's body proved he was in league with the devil. Villagers stood aghast, as their culture was rooted in superstitions and traditions. They had expected a supernatural occurrence, but not one that suggested Zosima was damned. Alyosha's trust in God faltered, unable to understand why such humiliation would ruin his teacher's death. Father Ferapont, an extreme ascetic, barged into Zosima's chamber and began to evict dark entities from every corner. Fear and chaos swept through the monastery as it grappled with its clash between traditional belief and uncertainty. Eventually, Ferapont was forced to leave. Soon after, Alyosha too withdrew to find solitude in order to contemplate and grieve the events that had unfolded. He questioned why God had allowed such disgrace to befall his teacher's passing. He could not give up his faith in the divine, yet he pondered the implications of this injustice. Alyosha's meditation is shattered by an abrupt, mocking laughter. He turns to find Rakitin standing there, leering at him with contempt. In a cold, calculating voice, Rakitin mocks Alyosha's devotion to Zosima and offers up a succulent sausage with a shot of vodka, as if he is trying to corrupt Alyosha with earthly pleasures. Without hesitation, Alyosha takes the forbidden delicacy and follows Rakitin to Grushenka's. Grushenka stands in shock when she sees the two visitors, but quickly regains her composure. She speaks of the message she had received from an old flame, an army officer who had left her 5 years ago, but was now coming back for her. She goes into detail about how the officer had betrayed her, and how he had come to regret his actions and begged for her forgiveness. The two men are mesmerized by this story, almost unable to speak as Grushenka paints a vivid picture of an old flame's attempt at redemption. Grushenka could feel Alyosha's sadness and desperately tried to lift his spirits by sitting on his knee and jokingly teasing him. But when she heard that Father Zosima had passed away, her entire demeanor shifted. Becoming remorseful and ashamed of herself, she berated herself as a wicked sinner without mercy. Grushenka also offers a story about an onion. In a moment of understanding, Alyosha spoke to her softly and kindly, and Grushenka opened up to him with an unconditional trust and loyalty. Without shame or fear of judgment, she bared her soul to Alyosha, revealing all her personal troubles. Her sudden outpour of sympathy towards Alyosha had a profound effect on him, lifting him out of his despair in an instant. Rakitin was perplexed by Grushenka's sudden kindness towards Alyosha, especially after having paid Rakitin to bring Alyosha to her. But when a message from her lover arrived, Grushenka knew it was time for her to take her leave, but not before telling Alyosha to pass on the message that she had only loved Dmitri for an hour. Her words were sharp like knives, piercing through the air as she walked away. Very late, Alyosha makes his way back to the monastery and rushes into Zosima's cell. He kneels and prays fervently, weighed down by his anxiousness like a heavy fog. After what feels like an eternity, he hears Father Paisi's voice reciting the marriage at Cana in the Gospel of St. John, and he's so exhausted that he slips into a deep sleep. In his dream, Alyosha is standing side by side with Jesus and the other guests at the wedding in Cana. Then suddenly Zosima appears and signals Alyosha to join them, telling him that by helping Grushenka achieve salvation, he has brought about joy and peace. Alyosha is jolted awake with his heart pounding in his ears and tears of immense joy streaming down his cheeks. He steps outside, collapses to the ground, kisses the ground passionately whilst throwing his arms around it, as if it was a long-lost friend. His entire being is filled with a blissful understanding of life that radiates through him like pure sunshine. When analyzing Book 7 of the Brothers Karamazov, the first thing to notice is that we now talk more about the now than we talk about the past. We are at the center of the novel, and people, ideas, and relationships are dying. The epigraph is vivid here, where things need to die for other things to grow. Remember John 12:24 stating that unless a grain of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it abideth alone, but if it die, it bringeth forth much fruit. Apart from reflecting this epigraph, there are some other lessons to be learned. Letting go of false ideals and illusions is necessary for personal growth and fulfillment. In Book 7 of the Brothers Karamazov, we see the character of Alyosha struggling with his faith and his beliefs after the death of his spiritual mentor, Elder Zosima. The novel suggests that true fulfillment can only be found by embracing reality, letting go of false ideals, and living a life of compassion and love. In other words, don't stand there waiting for a miracle. Act instead. Personal struggles and temptations are necessary for growth. The book follows the journey of all three Karamazov brothers as they go through a similar process of facing their own personal struggles and temptations. The book suggests that for a person to grow, they must be willing to face their own struggles and temptations. Alyosha, he is offered sausage, vodka, and flirts with Grushenka, but he remains steadfast. Small acts of kindness can have a transformative effect. The character of Alyosha is led astray by his brother Ivan's philosophy that everything is permitted and starts to follow the beliefs of a man named Rakitin. However, Grushenka, who Alyosha had previously met, intervenes and gives him an onion, which serves as a symbol of selflessness and kindness. This small act of kindness has a transformative effect on Alyosha, and he returns to the monastery feeling a sense of gratitude and love towards others. The onion here also represents the book itself. As Robin Feuer Miller wrote, this is a crime novel superimposed on a psychological novel, superimposed on a family novel, superimposed on a metaphysical novel, and so forth. The power of love and selflessness can be transformative. In this book 7, Alyosha has a vision of the wedding at Cana of Galilee, where Jesus performed his first miracle, turning water into wine. This vision represents the beauty of love, joy, and forgiveness, in contrast to the negative and destructive actions of other characters in the book. Yes, Zosima's body is rotting, but his soul is more alive than ever. This experience opens Alyosha's mind and heart, and he begins to see the world in a new light. Remember that at the beginning of Book 7, Alyosha lies face down, angry on the ground. But at the end, he embraces the ground and wants to kiss it. This book is called Alyosha for a reason.